What's up, guys? If you're not subscribed, please subscribe. Also, please smash that like button on the video and enjoy the show.
So this is really what happened. Arthur Barlow and Philip Amadis are two ships. They've moored up on the Outer Banks by the Oregon Inlet, as it is today, and they're sort of surveying, is this land going to be a good place to settle? And then he records that they'd been there a couple of days, and then they saw this canoe with three savages, as they called the Native American Indians at that time. Right. And then they watched this canoe, and he records that the canoe with the three Croatoans pulls up at the beach close to where the ships are, and then one walks up and down the shore, surveying the ship there. And eventually Barlow and a couple of the others get into one of their rowboats and row ashore and actually meet with him. And he says that the Native American Indian shows no fear, because obviously you've never seen white man before, I guess. And then what happens then is that the Native American Indian goes, does some fishing and brings back and leaves on the shore a load of fresh fish for the English. Kind of interesting thing, yes. As a gift for the gods, maybe, who knows?
Guys, if you're still watching this video and you haven't yet hit that subscribe button, please take 2 seconds and go hit it right now. Thank you.
And then a few days later, the Amadis and Barlow meet the Croatoan king.
That's what they called him?
He wasn't the king. The name that they used was the local name was Wererance, but it meant the king, basically. So, Barlow refers to him as the king because he was clearly the head honcho of the nation that they met. So they meet, and then they do a little bit of feasting. They exchange gifts, etc. They meet up, and Amadis and Barlow actually get invited to the king's village, which was at that time on the north end of Roanoke Island, roughly where the Elizabethan Gardens are today. And then, of course, they then spend a few days exploring the area. They sail up the Albemarle and the Pamlico Sound and explore the general area, get a survey, get a feeling for what's there and whether it's a good place to settle a colony.
I'm curious what the logistics are here with the people. You had said a little bit ago, and I don't know if this changed along the story, but it was like 140 people or so coming on these boats?
No, this is the survey voyage from 1584.
So how many people are on the boats? Okay,
so you've literally just got 2 captains and some crew on these ships. So these are literally just 2 small sailing ships. Difficult to know the numbers. They don't actually record the numbers that are there, but you could say perhaps 50, maybe 60 sailors.
Oh, okay. So it's not like
really
5.
all it is, it's just 2 small ships on an exploratory mission, not trying to attract too much attention because they weren't fully aware where the Spanish were. And obviously, if they'd have sailed there with a fleet of 7 or 8 warships, the Spanish would have thought, we're going to have a bit of a scrap here. So 2 small ships is kind of insignificant. What I think is quite funny, when you look at the Outer Banks today, it is mainly sandbanks. Okay. Mm-hmm. But Barlow actually, in his report back to Sir Walter Raleigh, he says, "I think in all the world the like abundance is not to be found." So he's kind of saying that this is the land of milk and honey and that there's everything there we could possibly want to set up a colony.
Was that just overexcitement or based on empirical evidence?
I think pretty much he's kind of thinking, well, it's probably not great here, but I can't very well go back after Walter Raleigh spent all that money, and bearing in mind he was friendly with the Queen, and say, I didn't really find anywhere to set up a colony.
Right.
Because in those days it was off with your head, So
yeah, it was a better system back then. Results
yeah,
you're done.
Solves a lot of problems, guys. So it's kind of interesting that he has to report something. And so he comes back with this message. It's a fantastic, wonderful milk and honey. It's Valhalla. It's everything. What I find really interesting about the 1584 voyage is that the last statement about that voyage is he says, "We brought home also two of the savages being lusty men whose names were Wanchese and Manteo.
Lusty men, like
Lusty
they were
men,
trying to
not-
fuck them?
No,
Oh.
big guy. You see, this is that classic thing in it, guys.
You
that.
can't take me to dinner parties in Britain, I'm sorry.
Well, I don't know. Actually, it could be quite a laugh. No, you've got this thing. It's that classic thing of what the language was. It meant in those days. In those days, lusty meant sort of big, beefy, sort of strong men,
Okay.
and these days it doesn't necessarily mean they're
No, it does
lusty.
not.
So, but it's really important because they persuaded two of these Native American Indians to come back to England with them. That's what.
Wait,
that
they got the
message is saying.
Croatoans to come to England with
They
them?
got two of them, one called Wanchese and one called Manteo, to come back to England with them. Okay?
This is on record.
This is on record.
So we know the Croatoans.
Yeah, I can show you the entry in the 1600 edition if you really need it. But yeah, they bring these two guys back.
Quick question. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
This
go for it.
is blowing my mind a little bit.
There's a lot here to blow your mind with, trust me.
So this time, as you said, it's exploratory. We're in
Yeah.
1584.
1584, correct.
Okay. So they don't set up a colony, but they visit with the chief. They shake hands. And you said it was just the two of them would go onto land and visit with the chief. I guess the crew
a
stays
small
behind.
party. They describe it as a small party that met the chief. I would imagine that most of the sailors and crew stayed close to the ship. They also talk about sort of rowing off into some of the creeks and rivers and exploring the area in general. So,
Got it.
it would have been a small party, sort of the amount of people, maybe a dozen people you could get in a rowing boat or something like that.
So point being, the argument here of if they set up a colony doesn't happen until 1587. But if what you just told me is true, does that mean that we have basically no argument that as of right now on the information we have, they were the first people to at least land in greater US&A?
This is the first recorded evidence we have of first contact between English and Native Americans in, ever.
Confirmed.
Yeah, this is like, numero uno.
So this seems to make the argument about if there was a colony a lot easier. They literally brought home a couple souvenirs in the form of people.
That's
Like-
about it.
Like, what's the question here?
Okay. Well, there's no question what they were doing. Although it's not actually recorded how they agreed that they would take these two back. Wanchese and Manteo were clearly deemed by the king of the Croatoans to be worthy representatives of the Croatoan nation. And I think what conversation probably took place was they may well have shown them a picture. We don't know this, it's not documented, but they may well have shown a picture of Queen Elizabeth in all her finery and what have you. Because what we do know is that the Croatoans were really, really keen on all the fancy sort of clothes and everything that, of course, the English were wearing at that period. As you've seen on the front cover, that's a pretty cool outfit to be wearing. And if they turn up wearing that sort of stuff, and of course they have swords and they have muskets and they have all this paraphernalia with them.
We got to bring that stuff back. I'm in.
Yeah,
I'll wear that.
Yeah, we need it. We really need it. Just think about it. Without getting into the politics, your musket has only got one shot, and it's going to take you 30 seconds to get it set up to fire it.
Not that part.
You could run away by then, guys.
Not that part. The rest of it, though. We'll keep the AR-15s or the AK-47s, but we'll get the swag.
You get the swag, absolutely get the swag. Pretty glorious swag too. But no, if you think about it, Native American Indians never seen white man before. They could almost be men from outer space, whatever. They've never seen them before. And then they showed, they got all this finery and they got these two huge ships, which are a lot bigger than a dugout canoe, that have sailed across this ocean. The Croatoans have no idea what's on the other side of that ocean. And then they show them the picture of this woman that they bow to, Queen Elizabeth. And then you've also got to bear in mind that the Croatoan society was matriarchal. The women, although there was a king, the women made the key decisions. So what more sort of affinity could a Native American tribe have than to say, we'll send 2 of our best representatives to meet this great sort of queen of these people that have all this finery and these, these ships and all that.
Did they think she was like a god, kind of, or?
There's no suggestion of that, but I think they must have seen her as very powerful. And you've got to bear in mind that we do know that Barlow and Amadas, i.e. the people on these ships, they fired off their weapons. So that would have been the first time these Croatoans saw them, I don't know, kill a deer at 200 yards with a single shot, rather than trying to use bow and arrows to bring the thing down. And you have to bear in mind that Native American tribes of that period were at war with each other.
Like,
they weren't.
Right, let's break that down.
Yeah, they weren't all friendly with each other. Some of these tribes would fall out. It's exactly the same as it through history. That there might be a marriage between 2, a guy and a woman from different tribes to make it all more friendly and like peace treaty. And then there might have been others that they were having a skirmish with and having a fight with all the time. So if you're the king of the Croatoans and you've got these guys that have got these fire sticks, shall we call them that, these guns and what have you, they would be pretty useful allies on your side if you got into a fight with another tribe. So was it going through their mind that this is actually a pretty cool idea to actually have, them on your side? And in fact, the drawing that you've just brought up there is thought to be a representation of Manio. So that's certainly what they were wearing, and that's what they were presented to Queen Elizabeth wearing, essentially.
Thank you for watching the video, guys. If you haven't already subscribed, please smash that subscribe button and check out this clip's full podcast episode by clicking here or in the description below.